We'll
started?
see. I have
You
some
were
goals,
you were
but-
Rialto and Circuit, no? If I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yes, I remember. Okay, so coaching stuff. Got your form pulled up here. I mean, this is round 2, so there's not a whole lot for me to be asked, especially if it's coaching stuff. So I guess for me, for you, it's like, well, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So basically, last time we kind of talked about the different kinds of codes and different kind of stuff I could be doing. And for me, I think I like team coaching a bit more, like a more leadership part, and then more.
Yeah.
The thing is, in Overwatch, one-on-ones are extremely important, so that needs to be improved on as well. Like I'm working on that as well.
Yeah.
You had sent me like a bunch of titles of books.
Oh yeah, that's right. I went through the full list
Yeah.
on the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, I got like 3 of them, and I think I started from a good one. I started from what is it? Conscious coaching.
Yes.
Art of Buying.
Yes. The barbell one, on the front. Yeah.
Yes.
The orange book, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I have it here.
Yeah.
I've read like 3/4 of it, not for the full thing yet.
Enjoying it?
Yeah, but it's also a slow read because
It is.
I'm thinking more than reading.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yes. There's a lot to process,
Yeah, and especially the first chapters where it's like know yourself to know your enemy, not your enemy but your players.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then after that, I had what else did I get? And I haven't started yet. Let me check. Mind Without Mind and Peak, like those two as well.
You got some good ones to start with.
So one question is after this book and after a little bit of more general stuff, I was thinking of focusing a bit on more mindset and how to get better mental.
Sure.
Is that a good route, or should I
Sure,
go
that's
more
fine.
of
I will say this, this is something that I realized, especially in the last couple of years, is it's very easy to have this mindset as a coach where you're overly productive, where you read so many books and have so many ideas. This was me during Uprising Academy and towards the end there, where I was really struggling, so I was trying to process and ingest as much information as possible. But it's just like anything else. It's like playing the game. You can only take in and process and build so many skills at a time. So I guess for you, it's a little bit like that conscious coaching mindset is know yourself. What do you need to improve upon in your gameplay? What do you need to improve upon in your coaching? And trying to set some goals for what you're improving. I think you should always be having a slow drip of new knowledge, a little bit a week, a little bit of reading per week. But I wouldn't try and just read more books, more ideas, more books, more information, try and actually transfer some of those into sticky, permanent skills, right? And what those are is going to be up to you and your team to kind of figure out. And that's the hardest part as a coach, is actually knowing, because you don't get to look at your gameplay, you don't get to even the feed, you don't get to have higher ranked coaches get to sit there and VOD review you, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what I try and provide as much as I can, because I wish I'd had this, but you kind of have to coach yourself on how to coach better, and then try and get feedback from your team. But do try and think about what are some goals that I can be improving on. And if you have any, if you're not sure, I do have some ideas of how you can do that if you're interested.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, watching your own VODs is one thing I've started doing a little bit.
Watch your own VODs. Yeah, 100%. So watching your own VODs and then trying to find out, what I would do is when I'm watching my own VODs, the quality, number one, is how the information is delivered. Number one, literally not even whether I could have phrased that better. It's just how the energy, the conciseness. Okay, so how the information is delivered is the most important thing. Okay, how the information was received, processed, and to be honest, that kind of goes back to one. So in other words, go ahead.
Are you mostly focusing on what you say, or how the reactions of
it's both. It's both. Yeah. It's you need to look at how you say and then how it's responded to, and be they didn't respond to that one very well. I wonder if that was the way that I phrased it, right? Or they did respond to it well. I wonder how, right? Could I have communicated that better, clearer? Could I have asked a question, or should I have even asked a question there? Did I miss an opportunity to ask a question or get their engagement, right? Because you need their engagement during the review, right? How the information was delivered, how the information was received, right? Actually, let's go back to the first one. So how the information was delivered. What's good delivery of information? What are some things that I guess compose good communication?
In general, like if you're able to like put it in a way that like it references something else, so like you always can remember it.
Analogy,
like a metaphor, yeah.
Key term, yes. Memorable, right, exactly. Okay, what else?
I mean, not in a boring way, like
interesting, engaging, like, yes, right. Even just the way that you speak needs to try to be interesting, engaging. I'm fortunate because I have a little bit more an energetic voice tone, right? But there's also some coaches that I'm like jealous of who have like this super like charismatic way of talking, and I'm always trying to like improve the way I engage. So yeah, how it's delivered in terms of like the phrasing or the analogy. Okay, interesting, engaging. I think concise is also important whenever you can. Concise or simple, not overly wordy. And this is by far my biggest pitfall for me personally.
Yeah.
Is I every coach likes to talk to an extent, right? That's part of what makes you a good communicator. But obviously that's a very careful, you have to be very careful. And I think also as well, so then how, those are the big ones for
saying
me.
The same thing with different ways a lot of times works, like to see what actually sticks with the other person. Like sometimes.
Sure, absolutely. And then just practicing it over and over and over again and trying to like, and the other thing about communication is as well is like, there's not one audience, right? I have a hard time sometimes where I have people in my comment sections that think that, oh, I don't like the way you coach this person, right? But ultimately, that's not who I'm coaching, right? I have to coach to my audience. And so for you, what might be good communication for a player one-on-one might not be a good communication for another player one-on-one, right? So you have to read the room, and that's what makes team coaching so difficult. So how the information was processed, deliver to your audience, right? Know your audience, right? And at some point, that's something that you should be consistently and constantly improving at the longer you work with a person, the longer you work with a team, okay? Just the other day, I was working with this guy that I've worked with a few times one-on-one, private, and the first time I worked with him, he was a little bit abrasive, kind of set me off, but I realized that he was just very intelligent, and he liked to always poke holes in my ideas. But now we've got to a point where I'm very comfortable with him, and I know exactly how he processes, so I can fling barbs right back. And our conversations are very interesting, but it took me a second to kind of figure it out. But yeah, know your audience. Are they asking questions involved in the discussion, right? You need your players to be involved in the discussion. If your players feel that they had a hand in coming to the conclusion, even if it's like, guys, this is how it's done, okay? This is why it's done this way. What do you guys think about this? And then they go, oh, well, using that logic, I think you would do this. And you're like, exactly. And it's like, oh, we're fishing for that. We want, even if you're teaching, we want them to help teach themselves at some point during the review.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else that you think that we've missed? I'm trying to think here.
In general, like for the... like I don't know how to put, like asking questions for them to answer more, like the what is it, platonic, I don't remember, whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
something's cool.
Right.
I think it was Aristotle. Whatever.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Sure.
So basically, and the problem I had like a couple of times there is like I had this I think platinum or diamond Cassidy player that was like had the pharmacy. And he was like kind of like wanted a VOD review to how to deal with pharmacy. And I was trying to like ask him questions to like figure out. So she has a pocket and she can fly and she has cover and you're alone. So do you think you should go take the 1v2? It was like, yeah, I'm a hitscan. And I'm like, no, Like, no.
Right.
Put
Well,
your effort somewhere else.
okay. So this is actually a funny little segment there. Sometimes when that happens, I will correct them and say, no, that's actually wrong. This is why this is wrong. And then I'll kind of force them to kind of have to struggle with that a little bit. But actually, more often than not, I will let them sit in the wrong. I will let them sit in the wrong because this has literally happened multiple. People probably don't even realize it watching my reviews, but this has already happened multiple times this week. On stream and off stream in my one-on-ones, where I was working with somebody and I asked them a question and they came up with the wrong answer, but I let it slide. And I said, okay, so then if this is what you're going to do, then you need to make sure that you fill in the blank, right? So if I was coaching that Cassidy, you'd say, okay, well, I should be able to handle them up for kid scale. I'm like, okay, sure. So then if you were to handle them, how would you position that to win that 2v1, right? So I'm like, you know what? If you want to take the 2v1 as Cassidy, that's cool with me. Just make sure that you do it in the best possible way that complements your hero. You kind of see what I'm saying? Okay. And then what they'll do is they'll learn over time that, okay, I'm doing it better, right? Because I got your help. Wait, maybe I can't take this 2v1 actually. I'm a better player overall, but I'm still not able to consistently take the 2v1. Then we can revisit that topic and make it a little bit better. So I guess it's like, don't let perfect be the enemy of better. And sometimes it's okay to let little things slide just so that they can feel like they're having their ideas stomped on. I would rather have them engaged in playing 10% better than have them theoretically playing 20% better, but they don't have a lot of buy-in or they've had their ideas squashed. And the other thing too is it's like, it's not just like, oh, it's disrespectful or hurts their feelings. It might be that the Cassidy just can't process both things at the same time. He just needs to see, he sees pharmacy, he just needs to go kill the pharmacy. So all we're doing is we're taking that kind of like dog instinct and transitioning that and directing that towards something slightly more productive, right? He's still doing the wrong thing by trying to take the 2v1 all the time, but at least he's doing it correctly now, right?
I'm wondering if this happens actually more with lower ranked players or actually higher ranked players, because a lot of times like high ranked players can have either ego or something fundamentally wrong and they really don't want to change it.
Right. I mean, every coach has been there, right? Where you're like, okay, well, no, actually I think this. So then you have to you have to sacrifice a little bit of your ego, right? You're like, okay, you know, that's fair. Okay, well then let's give that a shot. Okay, if we're gonna do this though, then this is the way that we're gonna make it work, right? And I think that my little catchphrase for coaching was always, hey, I don't always know the right answer, but I'm gonna help us make sure that we have come to a conclusion, something that we can test, and we'll eventually find the right answer, right? Now I'm very egotistical, I would say, to an extent about my ability to coach macro. I think I know everything, right? I don't think there's a coach out there, but I've thought that for many years, and obviously my ideas have changed many times, so clearly I wasn't right about that opinion. And also sticking with that opinion would have made me a worse coach, because there would have been several times where I died on my hill, and I was a worse leader as a process, right? That's why we call you a coach, but you're not a teacher, you're a coach, right? You can't, what you say goes for some things, but ultimately, you need to, the leading is more important than the teaching, if that makes sense. And leading sometimes means taking a step back and letting somebody else step up to the plate, even if you think they're dead wrong. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
It's hard early, especially when you don't have a lot of buy-in, don't have a lot of trust. Yeah. You got to kind of like gently kind of guide along and go from there. It gets easier with time, though. It does get easier with time. So, going back for feedback, ways to improve your coaching. Watch your own VODs. I guess I should probably bold this to clarify number one, right? Okay, so there we go. Number two, what do you think?
Like learn from other coaches, I would say.
Sure. Learn from other coaches, consume resources, and this to me falls into the book category.
League, anything.
Right. This falls into the book category, right?
Yeah.
Pick up ideas, goals, concepts, or skills you want to apply in your own, especially if they apply to your circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Because I had to learn really quick that, reading about how to like set a tough tempo practice and, control player personalities and all that kind of stuff was kind of unrealistic when I'm coaching an Australian team.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because I'm just not there. I'm just not there. So you have to kind of know your limitations and what applies. And honestly, I think that's a great idea, but it's worthless for esports, right? That's something sadly that I had to kind of come to realize a lot. And then don't just consume for the sake of consuming. So we talked about that already. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3.
I don't know if feedback from players and comes in one or no. It's like
feedback from players, 100%. Yeah. So it's something that you have to interpret, right? Some players don't always know what's good for them, at least not in the short term. But I think you being willing and humble enough to ask for feedback from players about how you're communicating, how the reviews are conducted, how you're teaching, how the one-on-ones. Just ask, interpret as you will. It's pretty simple, right? Just get feedback from players. I think anonymous feedback is great if you can pull it off, but if you can't, even just direct talking with them is helpful. Just keep in mind, like, a lot of players are not going to have, especially if they haven't worked with you a lot or they don't trust you a lot, they're not going to say what they believe necessarily.
So they usually just say, "Oh, great," and then
exactly. Now, as you build trust with players, like, I know that when I was working with Backbone last season or Hadi last season, if I asked them, something, they would tell me, right? But that's because I'd worked with them for a long time and they trusted me and I had a really good relationship with them. They knew that if they said something critical that I wasn't going to get mad, right? You have to kind of work your way to that point. So that's why I said, the anonymous feedback. And even if you can't do any of that and the players are still new to you, even just, I think the reviews, some of them will have a couple of ideas that are worth implementing. And the best part about that is, even if they're like tiny little details, if you take that feedback and actually implement that has a snowball effect where they go, wow, he listened. He really cares about this. He's not just going through the motions. He's really trying to do a better job and help us out. Okay, maybe this guy is, interested in getting better, right? That's a way you could build trust right there. Is just a little thing, And the fourth one for me is, and I'll just film on Flicks. And this is the hardest one of all. Reflect on situations, conflicts, discussions that you could have handled better. So beyond just the VOD review, right? Players bickering in the middle of a scrim block. The situation that we just went over before we started the stream, right? Think about it. That's your shower time, right? You're sitting there and you're like, I probably could have communicated. I wonder, what would have, so-and-so coach done here? What would have Jurgen Klopp done, and is it Jurgen Klopp, I think. Anyway, what would have that coach done, or what would have that manager done? What if I had done this? Was that the most respectful, most helpful? Could I have shown a little bit more leadership there, shown a little bit more backbone? Was I too tough? And to be honest, it's like, you're always going to come up with, it's like that bully says something rude and you have like the greatest comeback in the world 5 hours later. Yeah, it comes to even positive things too, right? But I think that's something that you always want to kind of process through, is like, okay, so if that happens again, I'll be ready. And I'm practicing thinking through, so that when those kind of situations happen again, I'm better prepared. And honestly, the other thing too is, like, some of those situations, they don't need immediate remediation, right? You might have a player fight and then you go and you sit and think about it in the shower, and the next day you talk with the players about it, right? But you've had time to think on it.
Yeah.
There's no necessarily, you don't have to handle it in the moment necessarily, just handle it, period. I think this is number 4, but it might be number 1 in terms of priority, I guess. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, those are like the 4 ways. Watch your own VODs, learn from other coaches, consume other leadership resources, get feedback from players, and then go back and reflect on situations, conflicts, and discussions that you could have handled better. And then from that, we want goals.
Yeah, like this is reflect, and then you actually need
Right.
to actually do it.
Right. And what you'll notice is that just like playing Overwatch, coaching Overwatch usually comes back to the same fundamentals. Overwatch positioning, timing, angles, mechanics, and sometimes it's like trigger discipline, or make sure you're not using your ice wall like this, or make sure that you're using your deflect like this, right? But ultimately it's usually the bare boring fundamentals, and it's the same thing with coaching. It might be, when I handle this situation, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to try this little cool scrim idea that I had, or what if we did reviews like this? But ultimately it's going to be about communicate clearly in your reviews, handle conflict consistently, be a trustworthy person, and be patient. And it's like just the same fundamentals, and over time you'll get better and better and better at those fundamentals. You can work on details, but you were going to kind of keep coming back to those coaching fundamentals, just like we do with Overwatch. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
So, do you have any questions on any of this?
Not on this. Surprisingly, it reminds me a lot of basically the start of the book I was reading.
Perfect.
Like,
I mean, it's a reason, right? Yeah, like unlike Overwatch macro, leadership macro has probably been settled for thousands of years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like you could read the book, the Art of War, and you're like, this makes a lot of sense, right? So
it's more applicable. It's more like direct on like coaching, especially online.
Right. I will add one other thing as well, and this is kind of your so I agree a lot with Christopher on this one. So I think Christopher was a smart head coach when it came to the game. He understood the game pretty well. And obviously he's Overwatch League, right? But I think I think one of the things that he said in an interview with, I think it was Cager, which I thought was great, was he said that I think, having an understanding of Overwatch knowledge is obviously helpful, really important for establishing like your team identity. But the reason he said it was like a little bit of a life hack is that when your players join you, when we're talking about building trust, the first thing that people look for is how smart is this guy? Players aren't generally mature enough to go, how good of a leader is this guy, right? They just go, oh, this guy's really smart. I mean, even when people come to coaching from me, it's because of this big brain idea I put on YouTube, right? They don't know, that's helpful, right? But that's actually not the most important thing I could do. I could help you with your schedule, right? But that's super boring, right? So they come to me because they think they want some big, cool Genji hack, right? But then they walk away with what they actually need. And so for you, if you're able to expand your Overwatch knowledge and have some ideas about, the game, and you obviously understand the game well, that can make the path to actually being a leader a little bit easier, because players will buy into you as a person a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So, especially when you first hop in a team, it's always you need to prove yourself. And
well, the trialing process most of the time is horrible, right? Where I don't know how you've trialed with teams in the past, but for me, it was always jump in a couple of scrim blocks, give a little bit of feedback, maybe lead a review. And if you've flaunted your knowledge well, then we'll pick you up. At least that's how it was with me back in the day. And, as annoying as that is, you're not going to show any leadership there really whatsoever outside of your ability to communicate and outside of your ability to show off your knowledge. So
it's almost like they're forcing you to just like point out every single mistake, but that's not the point. Like, that's not how it works.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But being able to do that is a skill that is worth having. That's the thing.
Yeah, true.
So you being able to understand Overwatch at a high level is really, really helpful. And obviously, as a team coach, depending on where you want to lean into that, whether that's the one-on-ones, whether it's the macro, or whether it's both, that's fine. But having a strength with Overwatch knowledge, I think you can do both. I think it could do both. I really do. I don't think that you don't have to pick a tank role, you know what I'm saying, or a DPS role. I think you could do a little bit of both, and then especially as your resume expands, maybe one skill slips a little bit because you're focusing on the other, but at that point in time, you don't really care. But I do think having some sort of knowledge as a baseline is good. Not just decent knowledge, but like actually like, make it a strength. You know, make it a strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Questions?
So, not really. I don't know.
Okay. Have I been communicating well and asking enough questions?
Yes.
Am I coaching you how to coach?
Yes, but I'll have to watch this back in order to find.
I know. I'll have to watch this back. You know? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All right.
So another thing I was. Where is it? So there's two topics we could discuss or like something talk about. One is like types of players. Like the coaching book is like has a chapter for each type of player, like the leader and the whatever soldier and whatever else.
Yes.
So like types of players you commonly see in Overwatch and like how to deal with them.
Yes.
That was like one thing, and the other one is more of a team schedule and
Sure.
Data sheets stuff like you have found more useful.
Yes. Sure.
Like how to build a team schedule.
Got it. Sure.
Side.
So go ahead. The first question was about like the player identity, the player formats.
Yeah, like what kind of players do you think are mostly like? I'm guessing like mostly in teams and like higher level Overwatch, not like the plat DPS or like the Mercy one trick or something. Like more in the team side.
Well, I think even in Plat, like if you were to work with a bunch of like lower ranked players, you'd still find those same signatures. You know what I'm saying? There'd be fewer of like the competitive tryhard wannabe signatures because otherwise they would be in higher ranks. But you're still gonna find the tryhards. When I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've read that book, but a lot of the like different signatures, to me, it was like. It's like
I was trying to like mirror the ones it has in the book to people to the game itself.
Right.
Like, how would this be in Overwatch? How would like and most of them are generic enough that you're able to just do it directly.
Right. To me, it's like going to an art class, right, and having a bowl of fruit, and then trying to paint the bowl of fruit. Everybody's going to paint the bowl of fruit differently, and some people will interpret it in different ways. But it's like a good start. So when I looked at like those player signatures, those player formats. Those obviously never fit one-to-one to any player that I'd work with. However, they were close. They gave me what they did is they gave me ideas. That's what they did. They inspired me to give me ideas of how to handle that situation. So for you, what I would try to do is I would through that section and with the team that you're going through, if this is a skill that you want to improve, right? Again, is this the skill you want to improve? But then I would kind of go through and just use that as inspiration for ideas of how to work with those players. Use them as guidelines. It's not, obviously nobody's going to be exactly that, but use them as guidelines. Does that kind of answer your question, or were you thinking more about like our main tanks? Our main tanks, the soldiers. You know what I'm saying? Like
whatever. That's too like you can make it into a video if you want. I don't know.
Sure. It's a good idea. I think it really depends on the player, right? Like you look at somebody like Funny Astro versus somebody like I don't know, like an Admiral or like a Violet compared to somebody like a Landon. There's a lot of difference in how those players operate, even within the same role. You look at somebody even like a Punk or a Dante compared to a Hottie, it's a big difference in how those guys operate within the same role. So you will find typecasts, but not consistently enough to be able to like roll with it, unless you're making a meme video. Mercy mains be like something like that.
Yeah.
But I do encourage you to use those archetypes as like ideas, as inspiration,
like a starting.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I guess like a lot of times you just see a player and like an aspect of what they do reminds you of that. And
right. Exactly.
You can get into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for the other one, like right now, I'm just using here. I can share my screen, I guess.
Sure.
Did I share the correct one? Yeah. Okay. So the only ones I am using right now for like team tracking a little bit is just a generic sheet to count how many wins and losses. So you just put the team and if they won or lost, and then you have some maps and some like versus teams specifically.
Yeah.
Like how did we do
Yeah.
in case we stream them again. So this is the only thing I'm tracking. And then when I joined, I just told them to fill in something like this.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
For me to like, I stole this from Tickety. Like I did not make this.
That's a good idea.
I'm pretty sure.
Well done,
maybe even this is from some. Yeah. I think these are. Yeah. None of these are mine.
Nice Kiriko drawing. That's great.
Oh yeah.
Kiriko's had a rough week, I guess.
I think Sojourn is also like, yeah, my team made these.
They're good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
or Matra.
Yeah, pretty good.
Matra's like Giga Chad right now.
Yeah, so like for tracking information or data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In Overwatch, and like how useful have you found it, and like what kind of stuff?
Very useful. But it's a double-edged sword. So it's like the whole concept of like opportunity cost in game, where you're like, if you focus on one target, you can't focus on another. So like with data, it's like if you focus too much time or too much effort or intensity on data, then you're going to waste a lot of time. And I think there are a lot of aspects of data and analytics that are completely worthless, which is where I think most people get kind of pitfall. But there are some that are really worthful. And the tricky part is you don't really know. Like I can tell you right now that like sleep dart accuracy is probably not a worthwhile metric to track, or like you know this is. But I will say that like if you have a 25% win rate on a map, that's very useful to know. If you have a 34% win rate on a composition that you've played for 30 maps, that's also very useful as well, right? And then even going through like your hero comfort little bar checklist thing there. Especially for being new to a team, that's very, very, very useful. I mean, heck, the teammates themselves might not even know each other's strengths and weaknesses. So if they're like, even if just sharing that information with the team, be like, hey, these are what we got, that might inspire the team to come up with some ideas with compositions, right? So working with like
the idea with these are that you make the compositions for each match if you want to have them set.
Right, exactly. So you kind of it's something that you can kind of be one and done, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore because you already kind of know what you can do with. So what I would focus on for analytics is like global win percentage, like map win percentage, and then if you can do composition win percentage, that's helpful as well, but I know that's a little bit trickier. But honestly, just map win percentage is very helpful. You'll need to obviously wait for like a certain amount of you'll need to have like a larger percentage to really know.
This is nothing. This is 2 weeks of scrims.
Right, exactly. But even from 2 weeks of scrims, you can start making some guesses or some adjustments. Like if you play Junkertown 8 or 9 times and you've only won once, it's a small sample size, but that's probably a decent enough to make a guess that something's wrong.
Is this a random pick map for?
Exactly.
Like we know our team is weak in Junkertown.
I actually just randomly picked Junkertown. I wasn't even looking. So, but even that 1 out of 5, you would need to go back. But see, the nice thing about that is because the number is still very small, you could probably remember who you were playing during those. And if you go, we lost 4 times in a row because you're playing somebody a lot better than us, okay, don't worry about it, right? But you could kind of like learn from that and kind of make a decision from that. So I think like map win percentage is definitely a low-hanging fruit when it comes to analytics. If you are able to do like composition win percentage as well, that one's good too.
Yeah, I think we can do it.
That might be tricky depending on
how you can add like a. If you play the same one, then it's fine. But if you don't play the same one,
But outside of that, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's some little more details that you can look into as well. Like, but from working with Commander X, who in my opinion has to be the best analyst in the league, those were the main two. We did the smaller other stuff we very rarely used, and it was marginal. I think the only other one that I can think of was like ult fight win percentage. If you're able to, I don't think that's a little bit more complex, but like if you're ever able to be like, hey, when we use this ult, we only win so and so percentage of the time, and that ult we only win so and so percentage of the time. That's probably the only other one I could think of. But honestly, that's the map win percentage, comp win percentage, big two right there.
Yeah, well, the ult you'd have to basically break down the scrims themselves and like go through.
Right. Well, with Commander, I don't know what kind of program or I think he might have had a scrim code. I would have to talk with him.
Maybe.
If you're interested, I'm sure I can get you in touch with him if you ever want. Just let me know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
like the analyst part is like I'm studying AI and computer science, so
okay.
Like I might even get a job in data analysis, like in general.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, shoot me a reminder in like a day or so, and sure. I will reach out to him, and I'm sure I can get him in touch with you. I don't know how much time he'll have to commit, but I'm sure if you have a couple of questions, if nothing else, then he'll be able to help you out with that. Map win percentage, composition win precision. If you're able to do those two, then that's gonna be helpful right there. Like I said, it's just about the time. Like how much time does it take you to do that? Because like time is money. So like if it's a really really quick thing, really easy, great. If it's not, then your priorities are probably gonna be better put elsewhere. And it's because it's really easy to get overwhelmed as a coach. Very 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 easy. All right. Any other questions?
And then the more of a. So right now, for example, the team has a schedule and they just screen 4 times a week. 1 time a week is a VOD review, and I've told them to schedule VOD reviews whenever they want. Up to now, I've only done 1 with everybody. Like in general, gonna start pressuring to do for them to do like 1 VOD with me every 2 weeks. In
so like team 1, team VOD review.
Throwing hits. No, like team VOD review probably is gonna be once a week.
Yeah.
And then
individual
personal is gonna be individuals. Like I'm thinking once every 2 weeks. But I'm not sure.
Okay. I will say this: if you have the players schedule it with you, all that's going to be is a litmus test for the type of players that you're working with. That's all it's going to be.
Okay.
What that's going to be is you're going to have some players. I would say probably less than half, maybe 1 or 2, are going to actually reach out to you and schedule. And you will know the type of player. The very earnest, not necessarily always the most skilled, but the very earnest, very serious player. Maybe the most genial, most agreeable player, or either that or the most serious player will reach out to you. And then you'll have the players that maybe are a little less serious, or maybe just are like more solo focused. They might still be your best players, but they're not going to reach out to you. So you're going to have to reach out to them.
Yeah, I'm thinking basically just like since like in scrims, be like, hey guys, you should do a VOD soon again.
Yeah.
Like not to them specifically, but like in general.
Yeah. And then what I would do is just reach out as necessary. I mean, listen.
Okay.
In the Overwatch League,
it happens.
And I'm not going to name any names, but we had this issue as well, where it's like, I would be like, if you guys have any questions, anything you want to go over really briefly, just let me know. And I could always tell who was going to capitalize off of that and who was not. So, and these are Overwatch League players, right? So it happens. You're going to kind of have to be the guy that's like, hey, I want to look over this. Let's do this real quick. And as long as your one-on-ones are painless and quick and direct and concise and informative, I think the length is the number one thing, right? You've probably seen my coaching the coach episode from a few months back, but like that's the big thing. But if you're able to do that, then they're going to be less apprehensive about it, and then maybe over time you get to the point to where they reach out to you. But it's still eating your vegetables, and some players are just going to be like, I just want to grind ranked, But don't take it as a personal slight at all.
Okay. And then for like more team stuff, like how many, like, let's first of all, like theoretically, what is the best possible schedule a team can have to fully improve?
Sure.
Like 24/7 play Overwatch? No. Like
So optimal would be probably 2 scrim blocks 5 days a week or 6 days a week. If we're talking like Overwatch League schedule, right? I think I'm not sure how I fall on the 5 or 6 days a week thing. I'm 90% sure that 3 scrim blocks a day is bad. But maybe 3 scrim blocks once a week for like a fatigue test, just to burn them out, on purpose, just to see how they do under that sort of durate stress is a good skill. So maybe it would be like, 4 days a week, 2 blocks, 3 blocks on 1 day, just to kind of grind them out. And see how they do under that kind of like fatigue. But outside of that,
for VOD reviews through that,
VOD review would be once a day for that. Okay. A VOD review every 2 scrim blocks, I think, is good. And then you would do something like potentially like a quick 5-minute thing between blocks is what we would do, 10-minute thing. But but then your VOD reviews should be, again, like 30, 40 minutes tops. So your VOD reviews, I think, should be under 20, or you should aim for like under 25% of your training time should be VOD review. So what you have right now is right at about 25%. Which is pretty good. But what I would try and suggest is, if possible, if you have 4 scrim blocks a week and you can only do 1 VOD review, because of the amount of time between VOD reviews, maybe do 2 VOD reviews, but shorten the duration of each VOD review. So one
I was thinking like already do just 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
Yes. So try one Monday, then try one Thursday, just so we have immediate fresh on our mind. Because the problem is like you're going to do an hour VOD review on Wednesday, but then you're not going to do another one for another week. You know what I'm saying? So maybe split those up into shorter reviews that happen slightly more frequently. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think best case scenario, if you were to like add another scrim or two, I think it would be on another day. Another day. So like, don't need to do 2 a days, but like having 1 scrim block, 1 scrim a day, I feel like should be better than doing 2 scrims on 1 day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Okay, that sounds good.
And don't worry, I wasn't streaming your email list, so you're not gonna get. I changed the scene, so you're good. I did stream some of the stat stuff only, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. I don't know, did anything else? Yeah, so for team scheduling, like it really just depends, I think.
Yeah.
The team, like, I don't want to tell them to scream more because, like, already some of them are missing a couple. And
well, what SR are you guys?
It's around 4.2. So
it's see, 4 scrims a week is pretty good for 4.2, like GM4 level. That's probably more than most people at that level scrim.
Honestly, I would be fine screaming 3 times if they put the time to improve individually the 4th one.
Right.
More, because individual improvement is gonna be way more than playing together. Like no matter how much time you have. If you
right. Like you guys have a ceiling in terms of your team growth with the individual skill. You're not gonna be beating GM1 teams. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
So last question.
Sure.
So it's really easy to do live reviews of teams like the team I'm coaching right now. I already have some goals, and I'm already like, for example, when I'm watching the scrim live, I can already tell them just what improve, focus on that, blah blah blah. When you scrim with the team for the first time, like especially I guess that happens a lot for you now. You get paid to like scream for just like 1 hour with the team or like 2 hours with the team. How do you how can I put this? Especially if it's a live review, how do you narrow down and like give them tips that will like improve them? Like what kind of like things do you look for?
A lot of practice.
Angles and timing?
A lot of practice, right? You need a lot of practice to be able to do that. That's really, really hard. But like you said there, the really, really easy low-hanging fruit is plan quality, timing, ult track.
Yeah.
Do we even have the bare bone fundamentals of how to play the matchup that we're playing versus? And that's where I'd always start. That's where I almost always start with team coaching is trying to establish that. And it can come across a little bit repetitive, but it's what 99.9% of teams need to hear. So you can't go wrong with talking about planning and timing because they're the most important things. And then you also can't go wrong talking about a little bit of like angle control, communication.
Yeah.
It's funny because most of my team reviews always come into like, we're really bad at listening to each other, or we're really bad at target focus, and so inevitably we end up talking about whatever. But don't start with that. But then obviously as time goes on, you'll be more creative at spotting different issues that aren't super obvious in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I usually start with matchups as well. Like for example, if
that's
it's
good.
Meter, basically.
That's also a good one to buy team buy-in as well, because everybody wants to know the matchup. You know, that's super sexy, right? Oh yeah, how do we play Brawl into Winston? Yeah. That's hot stuff right there, you know. But you know, it's
slow and fast. No.
Oh yeah. We should be playing faster, guys. We should be playing faster, more tempo, more aggression. That's like my classic. That's the Western classic. If you're in, you know, EU or NA, that's always the answer, guys. We need to be playing faster. What does that mean? I don't know. Anyway, any other questions, mate? We got a few more minutes if you have
no, I don't think I've noted anything else.
All right, sounds good. Well, if you do have any questions, you just shoot me a message anytime. And obviously, you have the replay review, I guess. So if you have another VOD, a YouTube VOD, and you're like, hey, what do you think about this? Or how do you think I handle this little section of the review? I'll, send me something over, and then I'll take a quick look over. But
sure.
Good luck, mate. I hope you.
Thank you.
I will send this to you probably by tonight if I can get it uploaded in time. But if not, I'll have it to you by tomorrow. All right, mate. Cheers. Good luck with all your training.